everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success talk show. My name is Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, and I am the CEO and founder of Slay to Success. What is Slay to Success? Slay to Success is a leadership and transformational consultant service business, and I empower women with strategies to help them present themselves in such a way where they are going to gain lucrative opportunities. And in that, we work on your personal branding, we work on your appearance, behaviors, communications, and your digital presence. And I am so excited about our guest tonight, y'all. So if you are here and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how long this is going to be. Well, it's going to be about an hour. All right. But I'll tell you, we're going to have a very rich discussion. So if you need to go ahead and get your drink, all right, I got tea. All right. But whatever it is that you would like to have, you don't want to miss tonight's episode. So, what is the purpose of this talk show? The purpose of this talk show is to highlight men and women who are living a life of service on their own terms and using the SLAY philosophies to positively impact the world. What is SLAY? All right, SLAY means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym. The S stands for stay ready to be ready. L stands for lead out loud. A stands for a sense of community, a sense of family, and Y stands for you are built to last. These are life and leadership philosophies that you can implement in your everyday life to achieve your desired success. And so, if you are here with us tonight, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here on the live show tonight. Please go ahead and put into the comments who you are and where you're streaming in from, so that way I can make sure I give you the proper shout out for taking the time out, because you did not have to stop in here. All right. So if you're here live with us tonight, I would love to be able to shout you out and make sure that you are being seen. Okay. Because that is the name of this game here tonight. So, y'all, we're just going to take care of a few things before we get on to tonight's show. Number one, all right, I'm going to bring up what are the next event for Slay to Success is, and that is your Elevate Your Presence Next Level seminar. This is tomorrow night. Well, excuse me, Tuesday night. All right, I got to get my dates right. This is on Tuesday night, March 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to have it on Zoom. And if you don't know what exactly Elevate Your Presence is, you can go to my website. I actually have it on the website. You can watch the first version. But this version here, we are going to take it up a notch. We're going to be talking about your personal branding style. We're going to be talking about your networking etiquette. We're talking about creating your 30-second commercial pitch, as well as looking at your LinkedIn profile, okay? Because we want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is set up in such a way that you will be able to gain opportunities. So if you are a speaker, if you are a consultant, if you are a coach, if you aspire to be an author, if any of these things resonate with you, you don't want to miss out on this session. So how can you secure your seat? Well, you can go to www.slaytosuccess.com. All right. And this is the QR scan code as well. If you are on your laptop and you have your phone beside you, you can go ahead and scan the code and you could see what that course it offers. And I would love to see you on Tuesday night. We have a few more seats, so do not miss an opportunity. All right, because this is an opportunity for you to elevate your presence so that way you can succeed as in your business, in your career, or in your life. All right, so I think I've got all of the housekeeping, all right, squared away. So again, if you are here, welcome. And please just go ahead and let us know where you're coming in from. Hey, Chevy, how are you tonight? Thank you so much, my queen, for being here tonight. So y'all, okay, let's just get started into this conversation here. So tonight, my guest, y'all, he is pursuing a life of self-discovery. All right. And you know, that is bread and butter to what I have been doing for the past 2 years. Because as you all know, I retired after serving 30 years of service in the United States Air Force. Huh? And that is what we are doing. All right. I am in my self-discovery. So he is also in his lifestyle of self-discovery. Hey, Bunky, how are you tonight? Good evening. Thank you for being here live with us. All right. And so he is a husband of 23 years, a father of 4 children, an ordained pastor, a professional keynote speaker, certified life coach, and 2-time certified personal trainer, a 3-time published author, a podcast host, a corporate leader, and entrepreneur. And he has his life story that exemplifies the radical transformation, sense of self worth, and quality of life anyone can experience when they learn to see what they truly are. Well, he has extreme passion and transparency and has been captivating audiences for over 23 years. And through his thought provoking yet universally relevant messages, Trey, Treveal has been known as the voice they listen to. He's also a trusted communicator in the corporate, church, and college communities. Treveal continues to present innovative ideas that spark the imagination, inspire the soul, and call for lasting life change. He is the founder of I Am the Possible, which is a company built on the philosophy that I and my possibilities are one and the same. Everything I hope to be tomorrow, I already am today. Trey Bell is committed to helping audiences see themselves in ways they've never imagined possible. So, without further ado, I will bring Trey Bell to the stage. So, hey,
Hey.
going on?
Hey, what's happening? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate that. Love this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love the energy. Love the energy. And listen, before we jump into anything, let me just before I forget, I certainly don't want to overlook it. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for
You're
your
welcome.
service in that particular setting, and thank you for your continued service to all of humanity in and through what you do today. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that squared away. Wanted to honor you and to bless you first and foremost, and to say thank you for allowing me to be on your platform and to share this moment with you. So thank you so much.
Yes, well, thank you. I am very proud of my service, as I have a lot of
Yeah.
other proud veterans that are here with us tonight.
Yes.
Um, and you're right, it's a time of service, and I think
Mhm.
that both of us are in the season where we're just giving back and paying it forward as much as we can.
Yes.
And it makes us better people, right? It
It does.
only it makes us better, and it makes the people around us better. So, and I'm also grateful for the opportunity that
Mhm.
you gave me about a few weeks ago to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
And so, we've already had a discussion, but it was about me. All right. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
now it's all about you.
Right.
Okay. It's all about you.
Mhm.
Okay. So, you sent me your bio,
Mhm.
and we didn't talk about any of the journey, if you will, um, that you have gone through. But I did
Mhm.
push it out, in the bio where everybody can kind of see it. But I want us to talk through that in our own way here and have it like a very serious, not too serious, but
Mhm.
serious enough to get the gravity of what your journey
Yeah.
looked like years and years ago. So
Mm.
let's just start there and then we'll just roll with wherever we go.
Right, right. It's funny that you brought that up because I have a shirt that I was gonna wear. I was gonna wear it. And see, that's why you should always listen to that little voice inside. That
Mhm.
little voice knows, that little spirit inside knows. But the shirt, just to kind of frame my background, the shirt says I'm sorry, possible over probable. Possible over probable.
Mm,
And I wanted to tweak it, so I did a reorder because I wanted to put what was the true life story, the possible from the probable, or to the possible from the probable,
right.
something along those lines. Because I had a friend when I relocated out here to Southern California. He since passed away, but one of the things that he would always tell me whenever we would hang out, his name was JJ, Jeff Johnson. He used to take me out for dinner all the time, and we just hang out. And towards the end of his life, I was, as you mentioned earlier, I was, a personal trainer. And so I was starting to take him to the gym and trying to get him healthy and things, such as that. And he
Yeah.
would always say something. He would always say, Treveal, you're not supposed to be here. He would
Mm.
he would say that every time we would get together. But it was actually a term of endearment.
Yeah.
It was a compliment. It
Yeah.
wasn't, you're not supposed to be here. But he would say, man, your story, bruh, you're not supposed to be here. Because he worked in the correctional, I forgot exactly what he was, but he worked with kids who had
Mm-hmm.
troubled pasts,
Yeah.
and he was like a correctional officer, whatnot. And he was in like one of those boys' homes where, you got to get rough, and kind of straighten up these young guys. And he saw so many young brothers going down the wrong path and ending up in these homes, or, ending up in jail. And so he had some context, he had some background. And I say that because that really summarizes my life. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
that's a part of why I believe God gave me the vision and the inspiration for I Am Possible, because I truly should have been a victim of the probable.
Mm.
Treveal, you know, based upon your background, it's probably likely that you're going to go to jail.
Right.
And I did a couple of times. You're probably going to end up dead. And I almost did 3 times. You're probably going to have a child out of wedlock, and the mother's going to be a teen mom. And I did, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all of these things, right, that we can dive into a little later is this idea of I should have been really worse off, and I should have never made it to this moment that I'm sharing with you right now. Um, but just to give you kind of a quick little overview of my background, um, I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I stayed there until I was 7 years old. And my grandmother, who was the patriarch of the family at that time, and she was really the leader of the home,
Mm-hmm.
even though my mother stayed with her, my mother had me at 16. So she was still a baby herself, right? And
Right.
so she relocated us to Toledo, Ohio. And when she did that, that separated me from my father.
Mm.
So that's kind of how things began. Yes, I'm that typical black guy that grew up in the hood and I didn't have a father.
Right.
Though I'm reconciled to my father today and we have an amazing relationship, in my formative years, I didn't have a father. So
Mm.
anyone that's listening or watching that can relate to growing up and not having that father figure, not having that role model, not having someone in your life to affirm you,
Yeah.
and to speak into your life,
Yeah.
that was me. And then my mother, she quickly got into drugs and alcohol. And for the majority of her life, she, was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so she
Mm.
couldn't raise me. She just didn't have the capacity to raise me. So I lived with my grandmother. And so I grew up, as one without his father and, one without his mother. And that's really the foundation for all of the dysregulation, the emotional imbalances, the emotional trauma and drama that I went through. And that kind of started me on the path of, getting to the point, and I'm sure that we'll get to that story at some point today, where I had zero worth and zero value as much as I was concerned. And so I was ready to die. But
Mm.
that's kind of the early parts of kind of how things began for me.
Yeah, and I know that our audience, there are some people who will be listening to this, and who may have gone, to something similar, through something similar that you have.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I'm always interested in other people's perspectives and their journey and the path that they had. And you're talking about the emotional trauma and the drama around not having a mother figure, not having a father figure around you, and to points where you could see the symptoms, all right, the effects of not having the people that we know can affect your ability to be a man.
Right.
That's just where we're at, and
Right.
and so you talked about, some of the effects was, you grew up overweight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You said that you were stuttering.
Mm-hmm. Oh
you
yeah.
know, and being bullied,
Mm-hmm.
being molested.
Mm-hmm.
So, that what type of defensive mechanisms were
Right.
you putting in place? Because I feel like you have to be done something. There is some behaviors that you were exhibiting to kind of protect yourself.
Right. As I look back, I know one of my greatest defense mechanisms was just isolation.
Mm,
I say to myself all the time, and I'm 46 years old, and to this day, I think a part of it is because I'm just naturally that way.
yeah.
I forgot the personality type specifically, but I'm one of those kinds of people that can thrive and just be totally content without a lot of people around me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also identify that early on, that was definitely one of the things that I did to guard myself
Mm.
was I just went home and locked myself in, right?
Ah,
Because if they're bullying me out in the streets,
yeah.
well, if I'm in my home
Right.
locked away, then the bullying stops. If you know, with my mother, witnessing not only the drugs and the alcohol, but one thing that I rarely get into, but was certainly one of the things that led to a lot of the trauma, was watching my mother physically abused all
Mm.
of her life.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
talking, I'm talking all of it, like up
Oh,
until the point where she passed away. It was she. I always tell people, I said my mom could not find a decent dude. Like she was a magnet for the cat that was gonna punch her in the eye. She was a magnet. And I know that there's a lot that she had to go through and things that, that led to her being that way, right? Now that I'm studied and learned and all this other stuff. So I
right.
know kind of what got her to that point. But as a child growing up, I don't understand any of those things.
Right.
All I know is I'm seeing mama coming down the street, with a black eye, with a busted lip, being in the crack house with her and her, boyfriend, and they're buying crack, and you're listening to him beat up on your mama in the other room, and you're
Ah,
hearing this as a child, and you in a crack house as a
yeah.
child, right? So I'm like all jacked up,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I certainly don't know how to, make it stop, and I don't have the capacity mentally, emotionally, psychologically to even somewhat make sense of any of this. And I certainly
Yeah.
couldn't, and then I couldn't protect myself. So for me, it was just isolation. Just leave me alone, let me be. I was a latchkey kid as well. My grandmother that raised me, she was a seamstress full time,
Mm.
and she was a registered nurse third shift. So I would come home, well, third or second, whatever the shift was when I got out of school,
Yeah.
dinner was just waiting on me and she was already gone. So
Right.
whatever that shift was,
Right.
so I just spent a lot of time, A, totally by myself, and B, in here. I have a
Mm.
crazy imagination.
Oh, wow.
I have a crazy imagination. I live in the imaginary. But now, as a grown man and knowing what I know, I leverage it and I love it. But back then, it was an escape mechanism.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
could totally see that. And one of
Yeah.
our audience members, Glenn Roy, he's on here, and he
Okay.
said being an introvert is definitely a defense mechanism that protects a person from bullying.
Yeah.
I understand this personally.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you're talking about the isolation and just shutting yourself off from the world, if you will,
Yeah.
to deal with, the things that you are seeing, the things that you're hearing and listening to. And one of the things that I like to speak to is the empowerment of a woman, and when I
Mm,
hear your mom was being treated in such a way, it's how do we get to those points, right? And it's
mm-hmm.
very easy when you are influenced by people who are controlling, and they kind of rule your life, if you
Mm.
will, and that's all you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I totally understand and empathize with what you're going through. I haven't been through that personally, but I could just see and hear
Mm.
how that would affect your life in
Yeah.
its entirety. And so
Mm-hmm.
you talked about, your mom being addicted to drugs, but you also
Yeah.
were addicted to drugs and alcohol.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And
So go ahead.
yeah, I mean, yeah, no, that's how that go. It's like, well, I'm seeing her, right? One,
Right.
I have a great example, right, of something so destructive, right? Been seeing it since I was 7 or 8 years old, seeing crack, seeing cocaine, seeing weed, opium, whatever else they were using back in them days. And
Mm-hmm.
so, no, so for me, because I always talk to my wife about this, it's funny, like growing up in the hood and growing up in that environment, it was commonplace.
Mm.
It didn't seem strange. Like after a while, oh, violence, that's normal. Oh, drugs, that's normal. Oh,
Right.
this what we doing right here. Oh, this is actually normal life. So when I was 16, no, I'm sorry, 14, because that's when you enter high school.
Uh-huh.
My first day, my first day in high school. I ain't talking about my second day. I'm talking about my literal day number one, fresh out of middle school. First day, I remember getting a transfer from an all black school district. So I lived on the other side of town. But some of
Mm-hmm.
my homies lived on the east side of town, which was more Hispanic, white, and black. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing, and I don't know where this came from, but I remember going to my grandmother and telling her the world ain't just black. So I don't want to
Mm.
go to no all black high school. Like,
Mm.
why would I go to an all black high school when the world ain't all black? Like, I just want to go hang out with everybody, right? So from an early age, for whatever reason, I had this now full circle. I see God was
Right.
already working in my heart to have a love for humanity, not just
Mm.
any one, group. So anyway,
Right.
long story short, I get there first day of high school. So we walk like 5 or 6 miles to high school. Like that was my personal sacrifice. Like she said, okay, well, I'm gonna get you to out of school, out of district transfer, but you're gonna have to walk. So when I walked, I got there and there was some homeboys across the street at the gas station, and one of my friends were with them. So I crossed the street, we talking, but they smoking weed.
Mm-hmm.
They pass it to me.
Mm.
I just take it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't stop smoking weed till I got saved.
Mm.
And we can get into this later on if you want to, but
Yeah.
2 years into being saved, Holy
Yeah.
Ghost filled, going to church, serving in multiple ministries, I was still smoking weed.
Mm-hmm.
I was just smoking weed all the way through. Right.
Right.
So weed had me. Like I was addicted to weed and opium. Like I was a straight up addict. And people say, oh man, weed, man. No, that's the lesser drug, man. You can't be hooked on weed. Yeah, yes, you can. You can be hooked on anything that dominates your life. You can be hooked on anything that you give your life over to.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't know no other way. So yeah, drinking wasn't that big. I didn't care too much about drinking, but I would do it because just peer pressure.
Everybody
Just
else was doing it.
everybody else doing it. But weed was my thing.
Yeah.
Smoking weed and lacing it with opium was my
Oh,
thing.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, again, the product of our environments and
Yeah.
how they shape us,
Yeah.
to do those types of things. And we see other people doing it, so we
Mm,
just kind of do it too.
right.
And then, you get to a point where you're just like, is this all I got? Is this all I'm going to
Mhm.
ever be? Is this what my life is going to be for the rest
Right.
of my years? And when you say you got saved and then you were still smoking marijuana,
Mhm.
right? But then at what point, and because I know that we all have like this transform of our minds, if you will, like an incident or a moment. Something must have happened for you to say, I'm not doing this no more. Like, I got to make some changes.
Right.
So when
Yeah.
was that for you?
I think it was a combination of things. The first thing was there was a prophet that came to our church. Um, I forgot what he was preaching on or what the whole situation that like brought him in. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember sitting in like the second row and he's doing this thing. He's preaching, he's talking, he's doing this thing. And then he just like boom, looks right at me.
Mm.
And he says, I pray that God takes the taste of tobacco out of your mouth. Didn't know me from Adam. That's all he said too. He didn't spend no time with me. He didn't lay hands and break out the holy oil and none of that. He ain't put on no
Right.
show. He just boom, look right at me. I pray God takes the taste of tobacco out of your mouth. And then he just goes on. So that planted the seed, number one, in my heart, that this God thing is really real. Like
Yeah.
really real. Because I was
Right.
keeping it under wraps. Like even my, you know, at that time she was my girlfriend, but my wife, she didn't even know. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm keeping it under wraps. But what led to us, or what led to me, really stopping, was when we relocated to Southern California after praying and fasting about following who was my then youth pastor, who's my senior pastor now, who's my
Mm-hmm.
first cousin. And he was offered a senior pastor job here in Southern California. And he said, pray about it, seek God, see if you want to, move, and see if that's where God's leading you. And so we prayed about it. And we believe that God said it's for you to relocate. And I just remember having just a conversation with myself. Now, it wasn't spooky, it wasn't mystical, it wasn't powerful. It was very, very simple.
Mm-hmm.
You're moving to Southern California. You're not going to take this with you.
Mm.
And that's all
Yeah.
it was. You just
Yeah.
you that you ain't about to take that out here. You bruh, what y'all about to go out here and do is something different. You ain't going to be able to transport this.
Yeah.
And it was like a cold turkey thing. It just came to Cali and I ain't smoked since.
So we have
So
very similar story on that too. So I used to smoke. I smoked for 10 years.
okay.
Um, and of course I was in the military, so I wasn't doing no, weed or anything like that. But smoking is a form of addiction as well.
Shit.
And
Yeah.
I did cold turkey. I just said, hey, I don't
Yeah.
see this because I was teaching group fitness classes.
Yeah.
And then I would go in my car after the class and I, fire up a cigarette, a Newport. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Right.
This is counteract intuitive to what I'm supposed to be doing. And
Right.
if I
Right.
say I'm fit and I'm healthy and I want to be on this, journey, I
Yeah.
got to get rid of this. And I just threw them away one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just what it takes. I think, when we decide on
Mm-hmm.
something that we want to do, we need to
Mm-hmm.
be obedient to it and just do it.
Yeah.
Right. And we know, like, I'm very much a gut instinct type person. You say, that inner voice or that inner
Mm-hmm.
thing that says, hey, let's just do that. I am starting to follow that more and more as I get older because we
Right.
never know, right? You
You
never
don't.
know what tomorrow brings. And so having that as a part of your life is one of the things that I think is
Mm-hmm.
truly something that we need to tap into more and more and more.
Yeah.
So and then this whole
Mm.
new world opened up for you,
Yeah.
right? It opened up for you. You said, hey, I'm going to leave that there, and
Yeah.
now I'm moving forward. And so you're now, as an ordained pastor, professional
Mm.
keynote speaker, a certified life coach, and 2-time certified personal trainer, an
Mm.
author, 3 times,
Yeah.
3-time published author, a
Yeah.
podcast host, and a corporate leader and entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say all that to you and you're talking about your life, what you talked about before, what does that do? I mean, like, is that something that's kind of like, oh my gosh? I mean, like, what is
Mm.
that feeling?
Yeah. Maybe to be honest, maybe I wish it was, I don't know, more dramatic, but I think because you live in it so much and you've it's you've been through so much and you're so grateful for what you have. And because you're being this person, I don't sit in it a lot. Like I don't read my own press in a sense, or I don't look at my bio and ever marvel at it. I just I'm just looking at the next thing. I'm just looking at the next person I can help, the
Yeah.
next place I can pour into. Like these moments right now, like this is what gets me up, the
Yeah.
opportunity to pour into somebody, or to possibly share an idea that becomes a catalyst for someone's change and transformation. But I've never been big on accolades or status, or even just celebrating my wins. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I love and I'm so passionate about honoring other people and celebrating other people, is
Yeah.
because I've had such a hard time doing that for myself.
Hmm.
So I'm learning, like we were saying in the green room, I'm like, I have to really start doing for me what I'm doing for others.
That's
And
right.
it's something I've not done. And in
Yeah.
this age and stage in my life, like real time, even like we talked about earlier, it's like even today, I'm trying to totally rest. So there's a balance of learning to do for myself what I'm encouraging others to do for themselves,
Yeah.
yet not losing that vulnerability and losing that, because that's what keeps the fuel, right? That's what fuels the fire for me um, to continue to do what I do. So it's a balance of care for yourself, but in a sense, almost like stay wounded enough to be very
Mm,
sensitive
mm.
to the wounded that you're helping to heal. So
I,
learning that balance.
mm.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a whole
yeah.
sermon right there. That's a whole sermon right there. But I do want to share
Yeah.
that. I mean, that is good. That
Mm,
is good, Treveal. Okay.
mhm.
Glenroy says we have to come to the realization that when we are in the midst of trauma,
Yeah.
it leads us to make destructive choices. Having that moment of clarity allows for readjustment of priority and better decision making.
Yes.
I think that is so important. We talk about clarity a lot. We talk about really finding the way out
Mhm.
of the fog,
Yep.
and getting to the
Mhm.
point where we can decide for ourselves what is better for us,
Mm.
right? And what is better for the people that are around us.
That's right. That's right.
So, and I
Mhm.
also have Charlene's here. Hey, Slay. Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
All right.
Hey, Charlene, how you doing? Thank you so much for stopping in tonight. This has been a really great conversation so
Mhm.
far. So if you missed out, anybody's coming in a little bit later, that's okay. It'll be here for you to go back to the replay. But I tell you what, it's a really good conversation that we're having tonight.
Mm.
And Glenroy says staying wounded enough to have empathy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Buddy on here preaching this evening.
Ah, salute to you,
Right.
bro. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So and I like that perspective when you say, staying wounded in your own things that you got going on or what you've been through so
Mhm.
that you can help the wounded.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we as mentors or coaches or consultants or
Mhm.
those that have decided to walk this path where we are helping other people, we all have this somewhat in us,
Yes.
right? We've
Yes.
been through things. We've
Mhm.
been through some things and we don't want anyone else to feel that necessarily,
Right.
so I think
Mhm.
that is important for us to stay true. And then where did you get this sense of self-worth? I mean,
Mm.
you're telling me the story,
Mhm.
because when you grow up overweight, which we
Right.
both have,
Mhm. Right.
we've both been in through that journey. When
Mhm.
you grow up overweight, there is a lack of self-worth or a lowered level of self-worth that you have, right?
Right.
And then, you talk about stuttering and being bullied and being molested, those types of things could
Mhm.
really bring you all the way down. So where did you start to find your sense of self-worth?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that question. That's one of my favorite stories. I think I've made a million videos on TikTok and YouTube about the 5 words that changed my life.
Mm.
and I'm gonna give you the condensed version of it. So when we moved here to Southern California, the church that we became a part of was already established. They were 44 years in.
Yeah.
There was a pastor on staff, Eric Brown. Love him to life, man. He's since gone on to be with the Lord,
Mm.
but he served a few years while I was still there. I mean, while I was there, and I don't know where they got this idea, but because I don't remember how it all came about. But Eric said, "Hey, man, we're having this men's group, and we want you to bring a 15-minute message on the life of Jesus." I
Mm.
said, "Okay." No seminary, no background. I ain't no preacher yet. I ain't no ordained nothing yet. I'm fresh out of Ohio. I ain't even joined the ministry yet. I don't know nothing about nothing, right? Like I'm
Right.
green. I'm green. Like I ain't even read half the Bible. I don't know nothing about nothing. I don't know nothing about nothing. And this brother talk about bringing a message.
Wow.
But I'm like, all right, I'm down. You know, brotherhood, brothers. All right, let's get it.
Yeah.
So, and I ended up coming from or reading from what turned into being my favorite passage in all of the world, Mark 135. And it says that it was very early in the morning. Jesus got up, left the house, and went to a solitary place where he prayed. Very early in the morning, Jesus
Yeah.
got up, left the house, and went to a solitary place where he prayed. And for some reason, that just captivated me. He said, but then Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him,
Mm.
they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you. Everyone is looking for you." Jesus said, "Let us go from here to the nearby towns and villages that I may preach there also." And I shared that because the one thing I had always had ever since coming, being saved, coming to the Lord, however you frame and name it,
Mhm.
was I love prayer. Like
Yeah.
I eat it for breakfast. Like I mean prayer to me is like is like, oh, let's go to Disneyland. Oh, let's go to whatever. Like think of your most favorite thing
To do.
for whatever
Oh,
reason.
whatever.
God gave me a love for prayer like that. So this passage really hits me. So I share, and I must have did a good job. Pastor Eric comes up to me. I'm packing up my little laptop. I'm done, and he comes up to me and he puts a hand on my shoulder and he gets my attention and he looks me dead in the eye and he says, "Treveal," and these are those 5 words. He says, "Treveal, you are a teacher."
Mm.
That's all he ever said. He smiled, and when I tell you, of course, Pastor Eric ain't Jesus, but
Right.
when I tell you that you felt like you were looking into the face of Jesus, he has such a demeanor, such a love, such a passion, such a caring, gentle heart and spirit and demeanor, and his words just resonated. I mean, just rocked me. And it came out of nowhere. I don't know what a teacher is. I don't know what spiritual gifts are. But he was like, "Treveal, you are a teacher." And dropped the mic. Just
Mhm.
left. He didn't say nothing else. Literally, he said he did not expound on anything. And that led me on a journey that has landed me to this present day. What is this, March 24th,
Mhm.
2024? I ain't never stopped pursuing my gift of being a teacher. So my worth, and this is what I teach through I Am the Possible, my worth started when I learned what I was, not who I was.
Mm.
Your
Wait a
value.
minute.
I know that
First of all, I'm gonna write this down. Okay.
yeah. Who you are ain't as important as what you are. Not even close. Not even close. He told me what I was. See, what you are is your value. I always tell people there's 3 elements to the human existence: the who you are, the what you are, the why you are. Who you are is your identity, but what you are is your investment
Mm.
into society. What you are calls out the contribution that you make. And we're all a contribution sent by God to the betterment of our society. So it's when you learn what you are, thus you learn your investment, thus you learn your contribution, you learn your value.
Mm.
So now I got something to offer. Did they pick on me when I was fat and overweight? Yup, but I got something to offer. Did my mama smoke crack and drink? Yeah, but I got something to offer. Was my daddy not there in my formative years? Yeah, but I got something to offer. Did they laugh at me because I stuttered? Yeah, but I got something to offer. And the list goes on and on and on. You can stack the list up as long as you want to. I mean, you can stack it up a mile high. Yeah. But I got something to offer.
That's right.
See, over here, you made me feel like I didn't have nothing to offer. You made me feel like I didn't have a place, like I didn't have a position, like I didn't have any power, like I didn't have anything to provide anybody. But the minute I learned that
Mm.
I can teach, the minute I learned what I was and what the world needed from me, now I'm building, now I'm growing, now I'm evolving, now I'm transforming. That was the moment when he told me what I was, not who I was.
Man, all that you just said is just so powerful to me. I'm just saying, like, there are so many things. Okay, let's first start off with the choice, Treveal. Okay, you could have chose not to listen to him,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And not follow through to what he was sharing with you, like, you are a teacher,
mhm.
and went another way, and maybe not have found you being settled, to what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And when you know what you're supposed to be doing, and this speaks to anybody, I mean, like, what
Mhm,
you're sharing is not
mhm.
just for, certain groups of individuals. This is for anybody.
Yeah.
When you say it's what you are
Mhm,
and the investment that you are contributing to the world, this is where people get it all messed up. They think there's something over here when they're really something over here,
right.
right? And it's not in alignment.
Right.
And so it never comes off the way it should be.
Mhm,
And they wonder why they're struggling so hard, So, like, the things that you just shared, I know a
mhm.
lot of people are kind of like, like I am, like, this is it right here, right? So when you found your sense of self-worth and you knew
Mhm.
your value and you
Yeah.
knew what you were supposed to be doing, this is why when we speak to all the things that all your accomplishments, if you
Yeah.
will, they probably
Yeah.
come to you like second nature. They don't these aren't things that are hard for you to be doing.
There no, so there's two answers to that. One, you're absolutely right. They're not hard yet, because I just want to make sure if anyone's watching or listening,
Yeah.
they're not hard. They come to me really easy. The hard part or the
Mhm.
work part or the effort part is caring so much
Yes.
about other people that I don't take that gift for granted and say, "Oh, I got the gift, so just sign me up for the next keynote. Oh, I got the gift, sign me up for the next this or that." No, I take every single engagement opportunity as if it was my first and as if it was my last. And so I perfect it on a daily basis. There are some things that I just can't get over or get by because of just I think, and I don't know if it even relates the whole thorn in your side type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But even as we're speaking, right, I still get caught up on words and I still kind of get tongue tied, every once in a
Yeah.
while. But you know why? I love that he never took it away completely
Yeah.
because I leverage all of my flaws to tell people, don't you dare make your flaw the reason you can't do what God's called you to do. I'm a stuttering keynote speaker, pastor, podcast host, go live on any social media platform person, right?
Right.
I'm a mentor, I'm a facilitator. I All I do is communicate. Everything that you named in my bio,
Yeah.
the common thread is they're all channels of communication. I
They
said
are.
I'm God's voice. I'm
Mhm.
God's voice. I speak, I'm his vessel, right? So I'm glad that he doesn't take everything away
Right.
because there's some people out there that's stuttering today. that's overweight today, that don't like certain things about themselves today, and I can still show up on that stage or podcast or interview and say, hey, look at me. Look at somebody who can identify with his flaws, totally accept and engage in that, and then say, yet that only makes me a greater this over
Yeah.
here. Because there's some people, they ain't never had no problem speaking. They
Yeah.
never had no problem speaking.
Yeah.
So how much more is God glorified, and how much more am I able to reach and to invest in other people, that they can see that I'm flawed, and they can see that I've got some things that I just continue to wrestle with, but I still continue to press forward. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, but I work hard at it. I work
Yeah.
hard at being the best communicator I can be, because that's the gift that God gave me. So I owe it to God, and I owe it to those that I'm called to serve, to work on my craft every day and to get
Yeah.
better and better at it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And our audience is truly, they are really inspired by
Mm.
what you shared. Glenroy,
Oh.
he said, we must find the ability to pull from the experience of our own pain to be able
Mm.
to be of help to those that are in the midst of painful moments in life.
Yes.
He
Yes.
also shared that this goes to realization many are called, but
Mm.
few are chosen.
Mm.
He received the call for men's group and was chosen to bring a message.
Mm.
The scripture unfolded in that moment.
Yeah.
And then lastly, he said, he just dropped another nugget. Do everything within your gift wheelhouse as if it is your first time, but also do it as it is your last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is the key,
Wow.
because some of what we
Mm.
know in the industry, if you're talking about speaking,
Mm-hmm.
is when you make that first impression, right, and you're just giving it, and you think that you're going to just go and roll into the next one, right, that's
Right.
something's going to be waiting for you, and
Mm-hmm.
you may not deliver, all right, the way that you would if you knew if it were your last time.
That's
And
right.
so I
That's
appreciate
right.
as well that piece
Mm-hmm.
of advice, because I think that's important, and that's speaking to me. Like I go in there, I'm like, you do it like as if this is the
Mm.
first and the last time,
Yeah.
and speaking that more into that, so that way, again,
Mm.
it humbles you, and it also gives you the ability to practice, like you
Yeah.
said, and practice and
Mm-hmm.
find more ways to deliver the message, so that way you can connect to the audience, and as well as to give them something that they can use,
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
implement in their life. So, and even Glenroy said it's humbling and empowering.
Wow.
Um,
It is.
yeah. So,
Mm.
okay, so we done talked a little bit about, I mean, the transformation that you had in your life, if you will,
Yeah.
sense of self-worth. And so what is the quality of your life,
Mm.
look like now? Like, when if someone's to ask you, and I'm asking you, I guess, the quality of life that you have right now, what
Mm.
are the things that are most important to you?
The first thing that comes to mind is rest.
Mm,
That the soul be at rest. That the soul be regulated. You can put the mind in there, the emotions. I love, for me, the most important thing in terms of what I work with people on, and I champion and really advocate, is the interpersonal
mhm.
communication. What I see, what I see in myself, and what I say to myself. Those are the two most important things. What I see in myself and what I say to myself. And there's a rule called the 93-7 rule that says that 93% of successful communication is nonverbal.
Yep.
So it means that what you see in yourself, and this is why this is my little best friend right here, what you see in
Yep.
yourself. See, you didn't see that one coming, did you?
No,
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 but
that's good.
yeah,
I like
no,
that visual.
yeah, that's my best friend. I would say, self-discovery, man. What
Mhm.
do you see? But 93% of what you see is what's getting through to you, and only 7% is getting through to you. So when we talk about, communication within oneself. John Maxwell says that, talking or speaking, that's getting out, but communication is getting through. So
Right.
you got to think 93% of what you see in yourself is the one that's actually getting through. So for me, the most important thing, my quality of life is determined by ensuring that what I see in myself and what I say to myself are healthy, regulating, calming, encouraging, empowering, and I can control that.
Right.
That's something that's within my control. I can't control what other people do, what other people say, how life goes, what comes my way, what doesn't. But I can control each and every morning how I feel about myself. you
Mhm.
know I've got those resources. I've got my certification. I've got my education. I've got the word of God. I've got years of confirmation from those around me. That's valuable information that I can continue to feed myself with, to say, no matter what this outside world presents or looks like or attempts to make me feel like, what I can do is I can create a calm within me. And so to me, that's the most important thing. That, to me, that is the quality of life. It's how do I feel on a consistent basis
Yeah.
about me, because if I can control the way I feel about me, then what that does is it helps to control how I feel about the world. So
Mm.
I always start with me. I forgot the person that said it, but they said the attitude in which one has for the world is determined by the attitude um, one has for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this idea, like, you get good within you,
Yeah.
then you're able to really love on other people. So
I
for me, that's the number one
absolutely
thing.
agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that too.
Hmm.
Because, I don't know, the world sometimes has an appetite for, people to not show up in the best version of themselves, if you will,
Yeah.
you know? And
Hmm.
so, and I think a lot of that is how they feel about themselves,
That's all it is.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And and like you said, you can't control how they come at you,
No.
but you can control how you come at them.
Yeah.
And you don't know what someone's story is. Now, there are some folks around here that I would say that they probably need a
Mhm.
little bit more help than others,
Yeah.
when it comes to that. But, on a regular, sometimes we want to get back at, like
Yeah.
we want to make sure that, we say something to kind of get back at them and right away. And we're just battling with ourselves.
That's it. That's it.
And it takes a lot of work. 'Cause when we talk about the inner work,
Hmm.
a lot of people don't want to do that work
No. No.
because that then showcases, there's a lot of things that come out. We're layered individuals, right? We have a
Hmm.
lot of stories, we have a lot of emotion, there's a lot of experiences and things that have happened in our lives.
Hmm.
And if we unveil those pieces of ourselves,
Right.
they can look really, really ugly.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we can start thinking to ourselves, well, if this is what I'm supposed to be, right? If I
Mm.
went through all this stuff, this is exactly
Right.
how I'm supposed to be,
Hmm.
right? But it's not true.
No. No.
It's not true.
And something that you said earlier about, we can't control how they come at us,
Yeah.
but we can control, and this is something else that I'm really passionate about. We can't control how people come at us, but we can control, and which is most importantly, how we come at ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the game changer. Because I mean, this is your platform. You can say some really ugly things to me right now.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't control what you say to me,
right.
but I do control whether or not I adopt it.
Mm.
And that was my story, right? That was the point that we kind of didn't get to, was that one of the things that we tend to do when we don't know the you are a teacher yet, because that was at 2023 or so, right? You are a teacher. That came in my early 20s. Well, all of the from 7 to 23, if the world is telling me that you're worthless, and my circumstances and my situations are saying that you're worthless, and I don't have anything to to counterbalance that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the steady diet that I'm being fed.
Yeah.
You're not worth anything because your mama ain't with you, your daddy ain't with you, your grandmama halfway there, and look at what they're saying to you, look at what they're doing to you. All of that evidence
Mm-hmm.
that you're not worth anything, there's no counterbalance, right? So
Right.
what happens is after a while, you adopt it, just like you adopt a child. You go to a foster home, kids all around, they looking for a home, they ain't got nowhere to be. You come in, you qualify, you have the capacity to take them in, right? So, okay, well, in my formative years, I had the capacity to take in all of those negative thoughts and all of those stereotypes and just everything that they were saying and doing to me. So I began to adopt it. And once
Mm-hmm.
I adopt it, here's where it gets really rough. I no longer need you to say anything. I'm bought in now. Y'all can go away. And this is where we get into that childhood scars, the childhood me, all of those problems when I'm 46 years old, but I'm still, dying because, dying on the inside as the 7-year-old me because they went away. That stuff ain't even happening no more. But you're still punishing yourself as if it was happening in real time because you adopted it. You brought them in and they took residence within you. So that's another thing that I love to unpack with people and help people to realize is those things aren't you. They're like children that you adopted. You get them suckers back or send them out the door, but they're not you. You just adopted them and you welcomed them in because you didn't have anything to counterbalance what the world was feeding you.
Mm. And that too, I mean, like Charlene is like, you adopt them for so long, right?
You do. That's right, Charlene. That's right.
So, and
Yeah.
and you're so, I mean, the whole thing that you just shared was like
Mhm.
100% fact true. And I'm like, yes, because there are folks that are walking around here who
Yeah.
are looking at what happened to them as a child.
Right.
And that's when we get into the victim mentality,
Yeah.
right? And they don't want to come out of that because it's safer for them, as they see, to
Hmm.
stay in that state,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
That's
know?
right.
And so and then you said it takes residence inside of you for so long that you
Hmm.
don't know how to operate, you don't know how to function,
No.
in reality.
Right. Right. You don't know how
And
to separate it either.
yeah, and that is exactly like I know because I do have some affiliation, if you will, with individuals that are going through these types of things, and
Hmm.
you can't have a conversation with these people, you can't have a relationship with these individuals, a healthy one at that,
Right.
right? Because then
Right.
it's when we get into the toxic relationships, and that's how we kind of form the narrative and the
Right.
behaviors that we choose to do. So yeah, these, I mean, like, this is something that we could like
Mm.
stay on for a while, and I'm okay. Are you okay with the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. I mean,
As we're
I got
going,
time.
okay, all
Yeah, I'm
right,
good.
because I want to go over a couple of things that was brought up earlier. So Glenroy said people don't want to do the self work because it makes them look at their wounds in totality, meaning
Yeah.
they have to look at self inflicted wounds that have disturbed our journeys and our peace.
Right. Right. Hey,
So
can I
um,
speak to that real quick?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
okay, yeah, okay. So keep that up real quick.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that I love that he said that because this is something that I was just talking to a young man that I mentor. That's on the come up here. I'm excited about what God is doing in his life, and so we were talking yesterday about an up and coming podcast that we're helping him to build, and so we were talking about how the most empowering thing that I think that I can help people to do is do just this, right? Look at the wounds, look at the self-inflicted wounds, look at the disturbing things, right, on our journey and peace, right? Or things that have disturbed our journey and our peace. And what I was sharing with him was when you learn how you work, one of the greatest revelations that can happen for a person is understanding that they're not those things that that will come up when you do that inner work. Like there is a literal separation. You're not your thoughts, you're just
Mhm.
having them. You're not your
Mhm.
actions, you just did those things. Like there is a literal separation between you and everything that kind of comes from you. But the most important thing is learning that when you learn how you work, you're able to give yourself a new kind of grace. And that new
Mm.
kind of grace is, if I was to ask you, Rochelle, um, have you ever made a magnifying glass?
No,
Never in your life. Never. You
never in my
sure?
life. I'm
Okay. Now, what
positive.
if I came to you and I said, hey, sister, tonight when we get off this broadcast, I'm gonna need you to make 5 of these, and I'm gonna need you to have these to me in the morning.
Hmm.
What you gonna do? What you gonna say?
I'm gonna go into Google. I'm
Mhm.
gonna look to see. I'm gonna try to see if I can.
Uh
You know
huh.
what I mean? I'm
Uh
gonna
huh.
at least try.
Okay. Now come tomorrow morning and you didn't produce 5 of these, and I came to you and I said, "Hey, where's my 5?" And you said, "I ain't got them." What would you say to me if I asked you, like, "Where's my 5?" and you said, "I don't have them," and
Yeah,
I said, "Well, I expected these 5 from you." What would you say in response? "Hey, I expected these 5 from you." What would you say to me?
I'm sorry, but I just can't get it.
See
That's
how them
that's
shoulders
what
went
I
up?
was gonna say.
Right. Now, you see how you naturally responded? Shoulders went up, hands went up, like it was as if your body language, right? Remember earlier we're talking about
Yeah,
93%
yeah, yeah. We talk about
93% of
that.
communication, right? Is
Yeah,
nonverbal. Basically, you were saying, bruh, what do you want me to do?
right. What do you want from me?
Come on, dog. I ain't never made no freaking magnifying. What you want, dog? Now
Got it.
put that in the context when you start to do inner work and you start to see all the mistakes that you made.
Hmm.
Put that into inner work and start to think about all the things that you wish you would have done, should have done, could have done, and how over all these years you've punished yourself and punished yourself and punished yourself and condemned yourself and criticized yourself and compared yourself because you never did the right thing. You never said the right words. You never showed up how you wanted to show up. Well, guess what? Showing up how you want to show up, doing what you're supposed to do, saying what you're supposed to say, that is a skill. And you never learned it. You
Hmm.
didn't learn it. That's just like me saying, sister, do something for me that you ain't never learned.
You're right. Right.
Why, how dare I demand that of you? Now, here's the real catch. How dare I demand that of you? And how dare you start to demand that of yourself?
Mm.
You're right. I didn't give you 5. I suck. I'm horrible. I'm stupid. I'm unlearned. I can't get it right. I keep missing the mark. I keep failing. I'm a failure. No, you didn't learn it. So when you unpack, and this is what I'm helping people with, right? As I'm
Yeah,
walking them
yeah.
through, it's like, dude, don't be so hard on yourself.
So, yeah.
You're requiring you to show up in a way that you were never taught to. So back up. Do just like that to you. You're having a conversation with yourself. Dude, bruh, sis, what did you expect? You did. And this is you looking in the mirror. This is you having a
Yeah.
conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah.
You're literally saying to yourself, I did what I knew to do at the time. I did the best I could do at the time. I altered who I was to survive in that moment. I did all I could come up with based upon my limited knowledge and information at that time.
Yeah.
And it was okay.
Yeah.
And that frees and it helps to liberate if
Yeah.
that person chooses to.
Right.
And so yeah, that's one of the things that I help people with when it comes to not wanting to go there. It's like you're not wanting to go there because you're still on this, you're going to find things about you that you don't like. And when you can start to flip it and say, yeah, I don't like those things, but given the context, I don't like what I did, but what I did out of limited information.
Yeah.
How could you expect anything more?
Yeah.
You
And I
survived.
yeah. I think that speaks to, especially with my audience, I have a lot of veterans. As we're in the military, there are a lot of things that we have done that we had no skill set for.
Nope.
We were just surviving. There were things that, we were put in situations, and there is a lot of people who can't move past that because it's hard to look back and say to ourselves, I actually chose that. I actually decided to do that. So when you're speaking to this, and I understand that, there the grace that it has to take for you to say you just didn't know. You just didn't know. So, Glenroy is on these like he
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
comments.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's
He
leaning
gonna
in.
get it
Yeah,
in tonight. So like
absolutely
I'm
right.
like,
He
thank you
encouraging
very
me,
much. Right.
right?
Okay, so he
Right,
said,
co-host over here. Yeah.
right there. He is the co-host. I was like,
Uh-huh.
just give it to
Yeah.
me, honey, because I'll pick it up wherever you put down.
Right.
There are a lot of dying children living this inside the minds and bodies of adults we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
You
You're
know,
right. Uh-huh.
and he is right.
Yep. Yep.
And there are people who dwell in drama and dysfunction comfortably.
Hmm.
Having peace is uncomfortable to them because it's foreign.
Correct.
So I agree. Yes, and I absolutely do agree with that. A new kind of grace for ourselves and not continuing to spend time in our trauma. And
Hmm.
Chevy has noted that. So
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yes, Chevy.
And lastly, doing internal work is important in the immediate moments, especially when our actions and words could have been damaging and hurtful.
Yes. Hmm.
So
You
and
sound like he took a class or a course or like
well,
he got
Glenroy,
educated in. Yeah.
I've been trying to
Yeah.
tell. I'm like, Glenroy, I'm gonna need you to be a guest on the show. Like when
I was just about to say.
he needs to debut because he is just giving value,
Hmm.
and he understands the inner work and how to,
Yeah.
get through that, because that's, I think, again, something that people need to learn more of and learn
Yeah.
how to use it.
Yep.
And not to beat themselves up. I know there are a lot of people who beat themselves up all the time. And that could really be hard for a person to kind of get through.
Mhm.
Um, so what made you decide to be a certified life coach?
I love the mind because 90% of my certification was psychology.
Mm,
So it was through my mindset coach. So I have a mindset coach personally that I've been working with for years, and he and a partner of his started a private company and practice, and they started to certify others in the coaching industry. And so I joined his startup, company, and got certified because he had been previously certified through another company. And it was my fascination with the mind being the central, the command center basically
mm-hmm.
of our lives, And so um forgot the exact proverbs, but the word of God talks about, guarding your heart.
Yeah.
Guard your heart above all else, for life itself flows from your heart. You can look at the other scripture where it says, as a man thinks, so he is, as a man thinks truly in his heart, at the center of consciousness within himself, then that's
Yeah.
truly what makes that person that person. So years of scripture, years of observing myself and observing other people, and just being fascinated by the idea that the mind is something that controls everything else, but I can learn about the mind. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not some foreign, spooky, mystical thing that's just controlling me and I just have to do its bidding. I can actually learn how it works so that I can, going back to your earlier question, improve my quality of life.
Yeah.
So that to me, I mean, I am fascinated. I study, I read, I look, I mean, I don't know how many books I've purchased, how many courses I've taken, how much self-study, and it's just a really it's a love for me to learn how people think and
Mm-hmm.
then to help expose these things to what I like to say is, people who would never otherwise have been exposed to this information, you know, and that was something I was telling I was telling the young guy I was mentoring yesterday was, hey man, people that look like us, bruh, and where we about to set up shop and start doing these community classes,
Mm-hmm.
they not reading these books, man.
Mm-hmm.
They not listening to these cats that we listening to. So if I can be that centerpiece, if I can be that go between, if I can be that, you know, middleman, that's the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. If I can be that middleman to information like emotional intelligence or interpersonal communication, soft skills, things such as that, that my community would never be exposed to through the educational system or through just their own personal, you know, self-learning.
Yep.
If I can help to establish that within my community, then I'm all for it. So I got certified so that I could be educated, so that I can know what the heck I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
so, you know, so I just wanted to really improve myself. And then if I can be an example of a improved life, then I can take that to the community and say, hey, look at me, look at my story. It's possible. It is possible. And here's the things that I learned that you guys may have never been exposed to. And I'm here to share them with you. So yeah, that's really what really motivated that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you're definitely being a blessing
Mhm.
to your community because you definitely blessed us here with a lot of great information, insight, perspectives that we all can use and apply in our daily lives.
Mhm.
And so, as we are going to close this out for tonight, what are your lasting thoughts that you want to share with the audience tonight?
Learn yourself.
Mm,
Learn you. Like for real, for real. We are typically, usually, we're the last topic. You know how you go to school
mm-hmm.
and they got all of these various topics or these various classes or courses or subjects. You know, I've been out of school long enough to where I didn't forgot what they actually call it. But you know how you go
Right.
from class to class to class, math,
That'll be too.
English, science,
Yeah.
social studies, right? Ain't never got no class on you.
No.
And that is a problem. That's a problem. That emotional intelligence is not like it's not a core class in our educational system. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real problem. Intrapersonal communication skills, what you say within yourself, that not being taught, that is a problem because we're giving us math or they're giving us math and science and
Mm-hmm.
social studies and, you know, Abe Lincoln and Martin Luther King. And they're giving these, everything is about everyone else.
Yeah.
Do you know your history? You know George Washington? Do you know Martin Luther King? Everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I graduate at 18 knowing a little bit about them. Don't know nothing about myself.
Mm,
Learn you. You should be, if you want a higher quality of life, you should be the place where you invest the most. It is not selfish. It is not selfish to invest in you. It's not selfish to take time to learn you, to figure you out, to understand you. We have to learn and figure ourselves out, um, first and foremost.
yeah.
You know, so for me, it's learn you. You know, you are the greatest lesson that you'll ever learn. You know, it's you. Um, and when you learn you again, going back to that grace, and that's something that my mentor has taught me. Always, Treveal, have grace for yourself, have grace for yourself. Um, is when you learn how you work and why you do what you do, why you say what you say, then you'll learn to have so much more grace for yourself because everything is motivated by something. And if
Mm-hmm.
you learn those processes and you learn what's triggering you, then number one, you're more equipped to be more regulated, and to live a greater quality of life because life is really in here, right? I always say, once I heard this, I've been preaching this from the mountaintop. There's one earth,
Yeah.
but there's infinite worlds. One earth, infinite worlds, because the world is within. And this is something
Mhm.
that we get to create. So the more we learn about ourselves, the better we can create a world in here and in here that we actually want to live in. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a mic drop all in itself.
yeah.
Learn you,
Yeah,
okay?
that's it. Learn you.
Because you're right. We don't take the time to do that. And that
Mm-mm.
self-investment part of, because other people may tell us that you're
Mhm.
being selfish
Yeah.
when you're taking time out for you. And I like to take care of myself, and I make myself a priority, because if I don't take care of me,
Mhm.
what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to show up to take
Nope.
care of you. And I know the things I need to do to take care of me,
Mhm.
right? And then once you do that, that's where we can have this abundance of energy. And then this that attitude of wanting to help other
Mhm.
people. I mean, it's infectious, and it's contagious, if you will, because
Yes.
people kind of see, they're like, well, they're treating themselves well, right?
Mhm.
So maybe I should start doing that for myself too.
Right.
You know, so uh, before we step off, Glenroy said, the mind is a powerful thing. We can think
Yes.
ourselves into anxiety, into fear, and into psychological distress. Turning the mind off by way of being led by the heart or by life is something that we all have to learn to do. It is
Mhm.
imperative to personal progression and stability.
Yes. Yep.
And yeah, that we can have a
Super.
whole conversation about anxiety, fear, and psychological distress.
My goodness. A whole show. Yep.
A whole
Absolutely.
show
Yeah.
on that.
Absolutely.
And I think,
Absolutely. Mm.
if you're up to it, I would love to have that conversation, because I think
Yeah.
those are the symptoms, if you will, that
Yeah.
people are dealing with on an everyday basis,
Every day.
every day. And
Yeah.
it has probably gone
Mm.
up 10 and 12, 15, 20, however many numbers you want, notches up
Right.
since the pandemic. All right.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things that just happened for people now to show up,
Mm.
and their mind is literally playing tricks on them.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a whole, that's a whole podcast.
It is. It is. It really is. Yes.
Well,
Mhm.
Treveal, I
Mm.
cannot thank you enough
Oh, thank you.
for being here tonight. Truly, like, this was so much more than I expected, so much
Mm.
more rich in
Mm.
conversation that we had tonight. And as you all have been here, I do not want to dismiss you. Chevy, Charlene, Glenroy, Nick. I've got, I'm going to make sure that you all get your call outs here.
Mhm.
Funky, and um, I think that's all on the comments. And anyone else who didn't, oh, and Keith was here earlier. Anyone else who didn't make a comment on here that was here on the live show, I absolutely thank you for your time. I
Mhm.
thank you for your presence in this space, because no one good enough. Well, you have other options, all right, that are out there, but you decided tonight that this is somewhere that you wanted to spend your time. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here. Thank you again, Treveal, for being
Mm.
such
Yes.
such a great
Mhm.
guest here on tonight's show. And remember, everybody, we will be back here, okay, next Sunday. And I know it's Easter, okay, and I'm going to church on Easter, y'all. But we're gonna come back that night. I got another guest that is going to come here and talk about psychology. We're going to be talking
Mm.
about that, because she has her master's degree in
Mm.
industrial organizational psychology. So
Ooh.
don't want to miss out on that episode next Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And
Mm.
as we all know, for the closing of this show, keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And I will see you all soon. Goodbye. Love y'all. Take care.